Welcome to Coatings Talk. Joining me today is Kim Scott, who's the Vice President with Maui Powder Works LLC. Kim, welcome.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha. How much snow are you getting in Maui right now?
I think we're at a -5 inches.
Yeah, I'm from coming from Pittsburgh. We got some snow overnight, and we're going to get snow each night the rest of this week. But that's okay as long as we I have a snow blower or a shovel. I should be good to go.
Sorry to hear that.
So, Kim, I wanted to find out how the genesis of Maui Powder works. How the company started, and then also too, I want you to go in a little bit of detail, if you can, as much as you want to, regarding, what is powder coating, and then also too the value adds that go with powder coating for customers.
Yeah, that sounds great. We were already painters. I had a local painting shop. My husband and I had started doing mostly vacation rental condo furniture, which was rattan. And I think my specialty over the years, we used oil-based paints because they lasted longer and did pretty well in this humid environment that we're in. And so we had quite a few number of years as top-notch painters. And then Ross started hearing about this powder coating. And that's, his side of the story is that, we went to go see this old man in this condo, and he had a patio set that he wanted to redo. And, he's like, well, I can paint this with like an oil-based paint and everything. And he's like, I don't want it oil-based painted. I want it powder coated. And Ross had always valued himself as somebody who knew a lot about coatings, because he painted boats in restored boats all the way up to what we were doing at the present. So it shocked him, and then that was the impetus for him to kind of go in and start learning, what is this powder coating. And back then we had forums. We don't have them anymore, so you could actually, he learned a lot from that. But really, painting and powder coatings are two different things. They really are. They seem like they're this similar, and there are some similarities, but in terms of applications, they are vastly different.
Yeah, in my past, really kind of where I got started in the coatings industry, worked for a steel fabricator here in the Pittsburgh market. And part of in 2008, when we had economic downturn, the company had purchased a 700-foot plus powder coat line. And, it was amazing the amount of business that we did, not only in selling fabricated steel, but then also having that value-added service of the powder coating. And what I was amazed with was how many people just, even in my market, wanted just purely powder coating. They were like, listen, I have material I want to send to you, have you powder coat it and ship it to my customer. So it was a very interesting market to be in. It's a segment of let's say the coatings industry that, I come from more the liquid side and other, fireproofing and things like that when on the industrial side. But a lot of times people don't realize exactly how much out there, even infrastructure, and how much other elements are powder coated. So it's good to talk about that value. The next thing I wanted to talk with you is that, an initiative that you have is related to, powder coating near me. Could you go in a little bit of detail about the website, and then what you're looking to achieve in primarily, I think, anywhere in the country to be able to people to find powder coaters, if I'm correct?
Yeah, the impetus from that kind of came from me as a globally recognized blogger. And I think that when you have that global perspective, like I had gotten, you start thinking about things differently. And, it seems like it happened really quick, but actually this was part of one of my long-term plans, 6 years in the making. I found this domain, and I, knew what I wanted to do with it, but somebody else had owned the domain. And just like in 2020, like when everything else was going downhill, sideways, whatever, all of a sudden, all these opportunities happened for us. And I took advantage of it. And so they reached out to me because I was, on the domain thing, kind of trying to buy it through GoDaddy. And then they reached out to me directly, and then we ended up buying it. But originally they wanted a lot of money for it. And I was like, no way, I'm not going to, I just need the domain. I can build my own website at that point, right? But I was lucky enough to have an adaptability grant that was coming out of the COVID pandemic stuff through the state. And I thought, this is my opportunity to take advantage, because this was going to be a member site. It was going to be these member sites can be really hard to build. They can be very expensive to build. And I thought, this is my chance to get this done. Otherwise, I'll never have the money yet it'll be years before I have the money to do it. I think as far as the blogging and everything was concerned, my challenge was as a coder here in Hawaii was, okay, I could get people reading my blog all over the world, but how am I going to get somebody to help me, come see me locally, right? And that's where the idea of it came to me. And I thought this had to be, if I was struggling with it, everybody else was struggling with it too, right? And so we had it built. I mean, it's still really in its early stages, but what I like and what I'm seeing are two different things. SEO is what everybody can use, right? Having valuable backlinks to your own website gives you the legitimacy on the internet. And second of all, and this is the surprising part about it, is after being up for 6 months or whatever, shortly after we built it, we were getting leads. I hadn't even anticipated that. People are now emailing us questions about powder coating. Where can I get it? Not just where can I get it, but like, I have this problem. I took my rims to, this guy, and they don't look right. Something's not right. What happened here? So we're actually now looking for other custom coders or people that want to blog in the space to write articles to the consumer market, because until this site was built, there was nowhere for consumers and powder coaters to meet together. And that's what we're trying to do, building that community.
That is a very noble effort, and it's going to be rewarding when you have it completely done. I can't wait to see that. And also too, in the on YouTube, I will have links to your sites, including that one, so that people can check out where you're at and check out the progress as you add more and more features and other options to it as well.
Yeah, it's free for custom coder shops or any. You can go, you might even be up there already. We added quite a few when we first got launched. So you might look for yourself first, see if you have a page on there, and then claim the page. Or you can just, if you don't see yourself in the search, you can just go ahead and add your shop. We have a page for that. So you just follow the directions, and we approve, as soon as we can validate who you are and make sure that, it's not a fake thing or whatever, we'll approve you right away. And then we promote you on our Facebook page, and then you can share that through the community as well. So it's like I said, it's just in its impetus now, but eventually I see it being a place for people to advertise, to get, large companies like suppliers or anybody in the industry can advertise on it now. And, I think customers are going to continue to need that education. They're going to continue to need and go to or seeking out valuable content that can answer their question before they even walk in or call a powder coater. I think some of the other things that I really want to kind of maybe try to move forward with in the next few months is that, like I said earlier, we had forums for to learn how to powder coat or talk about powder coating. Those forums are no longer around. and they're clunky, right? So people like that social media kind of application. They're familiar with posting and commenting and stuff. So a lot of the groups that are on today in Facebook are pretty popular, but they're problematic, I guess, because they are on Meta, Facebook, whatever. And I hope to kind of maybe steer people away from Facebook. I don't particularly think Facebook does anything for businesses. There's a handful out there that do pretty well with it, but I think in terms of searching for and looking for valuable, understandings about powder coatings, it would be great if we could use this website for that as well. Maybe have a login or something on the back end, and people can talk back and forth about powder coatings and stuff like that. So there's lots we could do with that site. It's just a matter of just making it happen.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and to your point, you're putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, and I think that it's going to pay off at the end. At least it sounds an amazing website. When you and I first started talking, probably about 2 months ago, one of the things that we uncovered about each other is that we do have a passion to promote our industry and what we specialize in, but really looking for that next generation. Who are going to be the ones that come, who are the ones that are going to come behind us, who are going to come with us as well and really help grow, powder coating. It doesn't matter if it's powder coating or any aspect of protective coatings. We have that need and that drive right now to find the next generation. Can we talk a little bit about, related to powder coatings? And this is going to be from your professional, your expert opinion, but the current state, both domestically and globally, for powder coating. What condition is the powder coating industry in at this point in time?
That's a big question. There's a lot of dynamics going on there. I think on the more urgency side of it, it's definitely training people and the loss or the future loss of those that are current leaders in the space leaving and retiring. And this is very sad because powder coatings suffer from a PR problem. I guess in terms of comparing itself to paints, right? Paint market is everywhere, right? But here's powder coatings, a small percentage. Why? Why does it have to be so small? I mean, it's growing, but after interviewing all these people on my own podcast, I realized that, we have this problem about bragging and talking about ourselves, even though these coatings are just so phenomenal, right? So what are we going to do? How are we going to bring a new workforce in our country is now starting to think about manufacturing, is starting to talk about manufacturing because of all this fallout from the past 2 years. And I think that I have a lot of thoughts in it, but I think initially it would be great if we could have regional centers, maybe utilizing existing custom coating shops around the country as feeder schools. I recently did an interview with, one of the top leaders in our industry right now, and you can find it. It's just a couple of episodes away, back. And we talked on this lately because I don't know if they even know what the answer is. I didn't particularly like his answer. I mean, it was an answer, but I felt that it needs more further development. And you have to understand that I come from the ground up, right? So I'm looking up, and there are other leaders out there that kind of look down about, from their perspective, they're looking at it from a different perspective than me. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that today's problem and tomorrow's urgent problem could be solved with the custom coaters like us today. one of the problems though within that though is that every job shop is unique. I mean, yes, powder coatings exist, but they're different than paint coatings in the sense that there is some technical stuff that has to happen in each shop to make it work. And it's very unique to that shop. So how do you broadly train someone? You can pretty much just give them the basics. And then when they move on to a new shop, they've got to learn the idiosyncrasies of every shop, right? Maybe it happens in paint coatings, maybe it doesn't. But like, I think it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more unique to every shop because powder coatings are so different from paint coatings. I don't know if I'm making sense there, but like that's what I think the problem is why not make regional centers to inflow and influx people and then have them move out? I don't see why that can't happen. I think that might be happening soon, but I think some of the other global marketing, things that are happening is, as you know, you've seen a lot of these multinational companies merging, buying out all these smaller companies, right? All over Europe, all over North America. There's been a huge merger and acquisition trend. It's starting to kind of taper off now. But I think what's next is you're going to start to see this happen in the small and medium-sized business arena, where custom coating shops like Maui Powder Works or anybody here in North America, if you can poise your company to be acquired or to acquire other companies locally or regionally, there is huge upgrowth, I think, that's going to happen and take place here now in the next 10 years. I think the last point I want to make on this topic is climate change. It's a narrative that will be coming to a local government near you, right? Here recently in Hawaii, our governor just pledged $100 million to address climate change. And to me, when I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, regulatory changes for businesses, particularly focusing in on dirty businesses, if you want to call them that, paint and coatings company. Suppliers are, the multinational companies, suppliers in our industry, they're already conducting studies, and I guess they're already kind of pointing the finger at people. I don't know. I don't want to say bad things about different companies, but like, it's like, not us, over here, look over here, look over here, I get that, but that's not necessarily a helpful point of view, since they are supplying the marketplace. I think it would be nice if these companies could maybe partner or at least be a little bit more outreaching. How can the industry, the greater industry, support these small, medium-sized businesses rather than just, saying, oh, not us, go look over there, restoring, go check their water, go check their, systems or whatever, I guess that's kind of, stuff you need to pay attention to is now either getting on local boards, finding out what your local business, your local governments are passing laws, just getting more involved could certainly, especially if the government, your government is handing out multi-millions of dollars, it could help with retooling, it could help with training, it could help with safety, it could help with a lot of different things, right? So that was just my main point, my last point to the global and regional markets in powder coatings. There's a lot of movement, and I think that's exciting. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think people kind of go, oh, they don't want to talk about it, but I think it does need to be talked about because it's not going to go away. And manufacturing, kind of in one sense, at least in powder coatings, it needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I do agree where what you just talked about. The other thing too, I do always advise people to look into. It doesn't matter what size of company you are, is the ESGs. So ESGs are your economic, social, and governance scores. Those are going to be definitely coming down, and they open up opportunities that if you are scoring appropriately with ESGs, that you could get tax incentives. You might be able to get some government incentives when it comes to funding. And then the other thing is that they can lead sometimes to certain financial opportunities for companies as well. So, talking about that, it is you're 100%. It's stuff that has to be looked at no matter what size of a company you are. And focusing on those is going to be important as well. Kim, I really appreciate you sharing your opinions about the state of the powder coating industry. Also, too, I really appreciate you covering the methods and focus on when it comes to the next generation and how to get out there and promote it, and some agendas that need to be driven to help attract the new blood into, to your point, not only the powder coating side but the general coatings industry overall. One of the initiatives that you have done, and you're very successful at it, and I am a subscriber, and I highly recommend people to follow your podcast, subscribe to it, participate with it, is the Powder Coater podcast. What was the genesis of the podcast? And then also, too, I'd like to have you cover what topics you focus on, and then what platforms people can, really partake in this content.
You can find the podcast on any of the major, anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora. I mean, we've got them all. It's nice that you can be on so many platforms. We even have a YouTube channel, which probably will be linked in the description there of your podcast. I sent that link to you. Looking back, we started the podcast in the middle of 2020. It was like June or July. Part of it was just trying to convince my husband we were ready to do this, and I think we were both at this place. I call it the Cinderella syndrome or complex, because as a custom coater, there was a lot of knowledge. First of all, we're way out here in the Pacific. Everything we've learned about powder coatings, we've had to learn on our own. We're like this lonely outpost out here. Everybody thinks, oh, Hawaii, it's so gorgeous and pretty, and it's like, yeah, it is. But trying to learn something, trying to get connected to your reps, your powder ordering reps, or your suppliers, or your equipment people, is hard. So I guess I felt like there was knowledge I was lacking, and that I needed to, it was somehow locked away in a White Castle somewhere. And I thought, well, if we felt like this, I'm sure lots of other custom coaters felt like this too, even if they were in a different state, so we just said, if not us, who, right? So we just did the first one, and he kind of liked it, and we had fun with it. And that's kind of how it started. I wish he could be on the show a little bit more, and we do want to have, when he starts to free up his time a little bit more, I hope he will. I mean, I know he will, because he wants to. It's just that he's in the operations day to day, to have him on there, because he has a lot to say. I think that's why we call it the voice of custom coating. It's one of our taglines. We want to be able to bring in experts from all aspects of our business. So we talk about trending topics. We talk about stuff that's come up in our business, our journey. We're still sharing our journey, from, practically being shut down completely during COVID. Hawaii was one of the worst states to get affected that way. Some powder coaters were never shut down, and stuff. So we went through our own personal and professional crises during that time. And so there was a lot to talk about. But it was also a great way to meet friends and meet people that were sharing that same journey with us. looking also back at it, I also feel like we were poised for that too. I had already accomplished quite a bit on social media and marketing. The blog was going quite well. We were getting into custom coder surveys and then creating white papers around those, just to kind of share back with the community, and I had a lot of fun with those. I'd like to get back to blogging and doing all of that stuff, at some point in the future. But the podcast takes, you're a podcaster. It takes a lot of time and effort to do stuff, to get it produced and distributed. So I think, we just continue to have fun with it. I want it to be conversational. I want that authentic person to come through that I'm interviewing. And I want us to talk about real issues. And I think we have. I've started to notice that the greater industry is starting to pay attention to our podcast more, and who I am, that I'm not going away tomorrow or whatever. The phenomenal growth that we've had has been blown me away. And when given the opportunity to send me a review or share their perspective about how much they love the podcast, it brings tears to my eyes sometimes, because I know how busy these guys are. And then to have them stop and write such a genuine review or note about us has just been, everybody's just doing the keep going. So I keep going.
Yeah, that's a powerful motivator. I always tell this story where I'd done an episode regarding, we were doing on surface preparation, and we were talking about, obviously when you're prepping, surface prepping in the coatings industry, you got contents under pressure, you're using abrasives at, high velocity and all that kind of good stuff. And a gentleman was actually doing work in the mountains of Pakistan, and he never really had any type of, as a contractor, the type of experience with the crew he had. And as they were going on the pipeline up in elevation, and they were doing some blasting, in some areas to kind of prep the pipe, they were having pressure drop. And he had learned off the episode I did about how to compensate when you elevate, when you go in elevation and everything. And he sent me a letter, or not a letter, he sent me a message, and he says, I really appreciate you doing that. That 5 minutes of you talking about that with an industry expert who sells the equipment really helped me out, because, when the crew first started talking about having difficulty, I didn't understand what was going on, because I've never worked in elevation like that before. And, sometimes people don't have that experience. And as a small company, sometimes you learn by trial and error. And it was good to have the feedback come back like that. The other thing, too, that I'm going through your back catalog, and the thing that I would say with your podcast that I like is, you had mentioned about real topics. You're talking, it's in real life. You're talking about things that matter. You're not talking about promoting something. And what you're doing is you're really helping to educate, inform, and also, I think, when it comes to the promotion aspect of powder coatings, to sell the value in that sector to the customer. It doesn't matter if it's on the consumer side or if it's on the industrial side. You're really selling that value, and that's what I found interesting about your podcast. So I appreciated this opportunity for you to be on my podcast, and then you never know, maybe one day I'll be on your podcast as well. So
absolutely. I think that community building is kind of natural when you come from Hawaii. People want to know Hawaiian hospitality. That's the attraction a lot of times when they come to Hawaii, about how nice people are. And in social media and community building and just media in general, you have to give. You have to give before you get. And it's something different for people to, when they start getting into social media, about having to constantly post and constantly offer a giveaway or this or that, whatever the tactic they're on, and you're starting to, you have to understand that that's the nature of that media, right? I thoroughly enjoy every guest that comes on. I wish I could talk more with them. I mean, I've had guests come back multiple times, and there never seemed. I guess when I first started, it was like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about next? But it's funny how it just kind of generates itself. And if I have a question about the industry, I'll email somebody and say, hey, can you come and talk about this? There's still so much we haven't covered, and that, hopefully my questions or things that I want to talk about on the podcast are the same things that other people want to talk about on the podcast. I would love to have more custom coder interviews. They are very busy guys, and a lot of them are humble. But they are absolute masters of their world. And we need more of them on the show because they inspire all of us, because powder coating is hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to learn. It's not easy to run the business. It has its, it has its rewards too. I'm not saying it's terrible, but like, it can be a long haul when you're learning something new. And I think that, having these guys come on and share their stories really inspires others to keep going. Anyways, yeah, I get kind of emotional about it because I'm having so much fun, but actually I'm learning and everybody's learning along with me. And I want everybody to share their journey. It's not just about Kim and Ross or Ross Code or Maui Powder Works journey. It's about all of our journeys, sharing it together so that we can better this community, and I think have a voice too, again, going back to the voice of custom coding. There are so many individual guys. Who knows? Tomorrow's garage guy could be, the guy that's running the $100 million company. You don't know. That's the potential that this industry allows us to be. It's entirely up to the person, and how much of a go-getter they want to be.
Very good, very good. Everyone watching this podcast, make sure to check out the Powder Coder podcast on multiple different platforms, YouTube channel. I will definitely put links in the description for you, Kim. Kim, thank you so much for this opportunity to have a conversation with you today, and looking forward to maybe collaborating with you on other things as well when it comes to content. So,
thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right. Have a great day.
Aloha.